Good evening, everyone. Pastor Orlean here. I would like to welcome you all to tonight's live stream of Wednesday Night Church, the Wednesday Night Crew, putting all of our stuff here together for you this evening, Wednesday evening, May 6th. And we are going to have our wonderful Otto Lundy introduce us into our topic in just a moment. But because today happens to be a very, very special day in our society, and especially this year, it is National Thank a Nurse Day. So, yep. And I have an echo. Did you hear that? It's cavernous. It's cavernous in this room. Anyway, it is National Thank a Nurse Day. So we as a team want to thank the nurses that we've compiled here, the ones that the names, we know that there's more, but the ones that we were able to put together here. And I want to begin, and I want to say a great big thank you to my hero sister, my sister Valerie. She's the best nurse on the planet. She has taken care of me, and I've had quite a few surgeries, and she's been my recovery room nurse. And she's also my mommy sister, and she's just an amazing woman of God, an amazing mother, and an amazing nurse. I love you. You were designed by God to be a nurse. And I just think you're amazing. And I just want to say thank you, Valerie, for all that you have done. I also want to say a great big thank you to my friend Kim, and also to Ray, and to Jackie, and to Jean, and to Justine. Those are the nurses that I would like to say, hey, thank you. Hey, Bruce, do you have some nurses you'd like to say thanks to?
I do. Thank you, Pastor Orlean. I want to do a shout out to Laura Burns and Christine Smith.
Oh, yes. Yes. Woohoo! How about you, Otto? Do you by any chance know of a nurse you could thank?
Well, I happen to know one, and she's the greatest nurse in the world. Don't tell anybody, but I'm madly in love with her, too.
Ooh.
Patty, my dear, darling wife that's been a nurse for, it's in the decades now. It's,
Wow.
In fact, when they came to do their furloughs, she had so much experience that we're not furloughing you. You're coming in every day there. So.
Yes.
But she's taken care of me for 66 years and lovey-dovey. Thank you, Patty.
Oh, you did great. Way to go, Otto. How about you, Pastor Robin?
I do. I want to give a big shout out to Leah Rasmussen and Sandy Lynch and Megan Lynch and Jill Gazelle for all that they do and how they minister for the Lord in their profession. It's just astounding to watch them work. So.
And it truly is ministry, and we are so incredibly, not just as a team, not just as a church, but as a nation, so thankful for this anointed job called nurse, being a nurse. With that, Otto, why don't you take us away as we enter in tonight's discussion on Chew on This?
Excellent. You are about to enter a discussion on how to live out your faith in Christ, living it out loud within our messy and busy lives. The content of this discussion comes from the pastoral preaching notes and this live small group discussion. These notes will prompt here tonight, something we like to call a community-based learning experience. Come now, chew on this with us.
We really want to thank you for joining us for this week's discussion on Chew on This on Wednesday night, May 6th. This week's topic is out of 2 Corinthians, considering 2 Corinthians, a lifestyle of serving and giving, or a lifestyle of giving and serving is the topic. This is the final discussion about Paul's letters, there's multiple letters to the church in Corinth. And tonight we're going to be looking at what his final words are on those two topics. But when you hear this phrase, lifestyle of giving and serving, doesn't lifestyle mean like, you're supposed to be a missionary or something? Like something you're called to do as a certain specific person? Or if we're really honest, something we do to keep God from being mad at us, maybe to earn a few brownie points, perhaps? Kind of like earning his favor? I want to let you know, all of tonight's sermon notes are on our website, realchurch.org/Wednesday nights. You can access them there and get all of the references for everything we'll be talking about. And tonight we are going through some of the scripture verses, and I know I can talk incredibly fast. So we will be going through the scripture verses. They'll be up on the screen, but we'll be going through them. And if you get lost or if you can't find wherever, just relax and listen, and you can go on the website and access those notes, and all the references are in there, and they're highlighted in yellow. It's really nice. I like color in my handout or in my notes. So those are all available for you. Now, we have a question for our listeners. Sam, would you like to let them know what our one question for tonight's discussion is for them?
Sure. Tonight's question is, how can we motivate each other to do good works?
Out of Hebrews 10, 23 and 25, it says this: "Let us hold tightly without wavering to the hope we affirm, for God can be trusted to keep his promises. Let us think of ways to motivate one another to acts of love and good works. Let us think of these things. And let us not neglect our meeting together." And he goes on. But we're encouraged here by Luke to think of things that we can do to motivate one another. So while we are discussing this amazing topic of giving and serving, for those of you that are listening, please jump on and chat and send Sam some of your ideas. Well, we can do this. I've had this done with me before. I've done this to help motivate someone else. And I think that might be a wonderful addition to the conversation we will be having tonight. So now the team here, I have a question for you. I'm going to read to you Ephesians 2, a couple verses out of Ephesians 2. And I want you to tell me, if you have off the top of your head, how in the world do you think this happens? So here, Paul is writing to the church in Ephesus, and he says this, Ephesians 2, 19 through 22. "Consequently, you are no longer foreigners or strangers, but fellow citizens with God's people and also members of his household." Welcome home, boys and girls. "But this household," in verse 20, "built on the foundation of the apostles and prophets, with Christ Jesus himself as the chief cornerstone. In him, the whole building is joined together and rises to become a holy temple in the Lord. And in him," here is my question, how does this happen? "And in him, you two are being built together to become a dwelling in which God lives by his Spirit." Oh, beautiful, encouraging, one of my favorite portions of Scripture. And I have a question. He does not give us a step-by-step instructions like you get with a Lego set. It's not listed there. So how do we suppose that happens? How does this built together actually happen? While you're thinking, I want to also, another nurse came to mind, Diane Parmenter. You're the church nurse. We really thank you. Yes, you are so much a part of our foundation. We love you and we thank you. And if you were here, I'd lick your face, but I really wouldn't, because it would be totally inappropriate, even if it wasn't COVID going on. So just letting you know what's in my heart. So here my suggestion, I think, because of what the topic tonight, and thinking about this verse to me in my brain, I think this building together actually happens when we participate as a family, as a community, in giving and serving. When we operate in these two skills, in these two life skills within a church community, we have this being built together thing is what happens as a result. So I throw that out there just as a consideration. You don't have to agree with me yet. You will by the time we're done, however. So here we're going to be looking at giving from Paul's point of view. Now, we have touched on giving in a prior podcast, so I didn't want to really take a ton of time on it. So here we find in 2 Corinthians 8, verses 1 through 15 deal with the whole topic. We'll be looking at verse 2 and 5, the end of 5. But here he is writing, and he is talking about the church in Macedonia, which involves Philippi, Thessalonica, blah, 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 and Berea. In Acts chapter 16 through 17, it talks about this process. Now, these churches in this area are unlike the church in Corinth. The church in Corinth is very wealthy because of the area and the two ports and all the things that happen there. And Paul is telling them that the church in the Macedonia area, they are being tested by many troubles. They're very poor, but they're also filled with abundant joy. They're very poor, but they're filled with this abundant joy, which has been overflowed in this rich generosity. They took this offering for the church in Jerusalem that is being totally ostracized. They don't have any support, any finances. So all of these other churches, what are interesting, which are Gentile churches, are taking an offering and bringing it here. And so he's saying they are so poor, but they are so generous. They are giving more than what he thinks they probably should, but they have decided what we're going to give. And he wanted the church in Corinth to understand this is the mindset. You are not the only ones. You started it. They had not completed what we would call pledge to give. And so he's reminding them to be ready. I'm sending, I think it's Titus that goes and gets the money. So and he ends it here in 5b. For their first action was to give themselves to the Lord. The church in Macedonia, their very first action was to fall in love with Jesus. And then they gave themselves to the community, to us, just as God wanted them to do. And so they're operating in this, oh, I fell in love with Jesus and now I want to give and help other people. And so he listed that in 2 Corinthians 8. Now in 2 Corinthians 9, he goes into more detail talking about the province of Achaia, which, let's see, where is that one? Yeah, it's in there between Macedonia and Corinth. There's all of this territory he's talking about. And this portion of Scripture, chapter 9, verses 1 through 15, I told you I can talk fast, and I'm going to go fast through this part. He's talking about the theology of giving, Paul's theology of giving and what it means. And he's talking about when you give, Jenny, he's talking about a farmer who plants, and we get that here. I mean, Steve, you're just talking about Patty's going to get some different kind of soil to add into the planters and in the soil so you guys can start your garden and all these different things. And you, Sam, at your house, you guys are creating some of the best compost by having by raising chickens. I tell you, poultry poop is high in nitrogen. It's amazing. You do have to let it, ferment and break down, but it's amazing. I was telling Jessica that, and I don't know, Jessica, did you find that interesting? I found it really interesting. Steve, talking about Patty's going to get. There we go. I have an echo. I love it. And so here, Paul is talking about that to the church here. And he talks about when all of this happens, when we plant and do things, when we serve and give, we can watch God do these crazy things with the little bit that we can do, and he waters it and it grows to this. And he said that when we do this with our resources, we watch God multiply. And he says here in the end of verse 10, it produces a great harvest of generosity. 2 Corinthians 9:10, a great harvest of generosity inside of us. So once we start in this cycle of serving and giving, and we do that, we find that a generous heart begins to grow in us, kind of like the Grinch. It grows bigger, and that's in response to God providing. So here, if we see the Lord providing, Paul is saying, do something. He's providing this, so don't just, this is for me. I want candy just for me. I'm going to go in my closet and keep it all to myself. He's like, no, have this generous heart. Operate on that generosity. And I believe that giving helps us to keep our priorities straight. That's one of the things that happens when we start operating in this thing called giving. Giving helps us to kill selfishness and develop generosity. That's listed right here in 2 Corinthians 9. Giving helps us see what God is up to because we look for where we're going to invest our time, treasure, and talent. And specifically talking here with our finances, with our treasure, giving together binds us together. When we pool our money and we send it to something overseas, all of us are attached to that missions overseas. When we pool our money and we buy a bunch of building supplies and we send a missions team to a place to build an orphanage, we're all bound together. We have equal priorities, and giving does that. Giving is an eternal investment. It's an eternal investment, and Jesus has this view. He lists it and talks about it in Luke 12, verse 33. Sell your possessions and give to those in need. This will store up treasures for you in heaven. And the purses of heaven never grow old and never develop holes. Your treasure will be safe. No thief can steal it, and no moth can destroy it. Have an eternal view in mind when you deal with your treasures, with your money. So that was just a short synopsis, some conversation on Paul's, a view into Paul's mindset, but then a view also into Christ's mindset. And there we go. This idea, considering 2 Corinthians, a lifestyle of giving is not just something we do here and there. It's actually a lifestyle, something that we actually practice and do all the time and keep in our mind. So once again, Ephesians 2:19 through 22, how does this happen? How are we built together to become a dwelling in which God lives by his Spirit? Because we want him there. Once again, may I suggest that this happens through giving and serving. It happens with those two things together. So, team, anybody want to define serving in one word? Do you have something that pops in your head? Serving means?
Helping.
Compassion.
Helping. What, Pastor Robin?
Compassion.
Compassion.
Action.
Action.
Do something.
We can combine them and make compaction.
We can. Compaction. Ooh, a new word. Let's make a t-shirt. And we can put a bird or a chicken on it or something. I don't know. Yes. When I look at the word or hear the word serving, I think of you need to be useful. Like, the most useful thing in your kitchen. Mm-hmm. Sam, what's the most useful thing in your kitchen?
Good question. Utensils.
Utensils. Pastor Robin, the most useful thing in your kitchen.
Cast iron skillet.
Cast iron skillet. Otto, useful thing in your kitchen.
The third greatest invention of all times, the refrigerator.
Oh, the refrigerator. Oh,
That's where my ice cream is.
oh yeah. Don't tell my husband. He'll be over. He's having a big ice. There's no ice cream at our house. The most useful utensil in my kitchen is that electric teapot, Pastor Robin, that you turned us on. I tell you, I've gone through 2. I'm on my 3rd one. And I tell you, that thing gets used and used and used. It's so, and it travels with us because, you get addicted to hot water that quickly. So this idea of being useful, it's something you can go back to, that it can be used. You can take it. It applies. It's what's the word? It's useful. You can turn to it. It's always there. It's always ready. You don't have to. What was that?
Reliable.
Reliable. There we go. One useful brain. Here we go. Someone, thank you, Pastor Robin. So here we're going to look at Jesus' definition of serve.
Let's talk about a couple of these comments that are coming in first.
Alrighty, let's do that. We've got some comments talking about how can we motivate one another.
How we can motivate, but defining the serve in one word.
Oh, we have some
generosity.
Oh, generosity.
Is
I like
one
that.
that was missing. And then some ideas of what's useful in the kitchen. Coffee pot.
Coffee pot. Yeah, I was surprised. I do not drink coffee, so I was surprised someone didn't say a Keurig.
Yeah, coffee pot. And then John Bodine, me.
Okay, I like
So
that.
there we go.
There we go. That's fun. Thank you. We love your interaction. Keep us on track, please. That's amazing.
Yeah.
All right. So, what does it mean to serve? So here, Jesus is giving us a definition of service. It's like, okay, back in Luke 22, verses 24 through 27. It's also listed in Matthew 20 and in Mark 10. Then the disciples began to argue, which I think is so hilarious. It reminds me of siblings. Okay, so they began to argue amongst themselves about who would be the greatest among them. I think Jesus was snickering. Oh, God. Can I believe you guys?
Who has the
Leave you
biggest
alone
head?
for 10 minutes. Yeah. And Jesus told, in this world, the kings and the great men lord it over their people, yet they are called friends of the people. All right? But among you, it will be different. Not it should be. He's telling us it will be. End of story. It will be different. Those who are the greatest among you should take the lowest rank, and the leader should be like a servant. Who is more important, the one who sits at the table or the one who serves? Well, of course, the one who sits at the table, but not here. Because I'm among you as one who serves. Not only spoke it, he did it in action as well. So that is his definition of serving. And here is how God the Father views that type of service. We find it in Hebrews 6:10, also written by Luke. For God is not unjust. He will not forget how hard you have worked for him and how you have shown your love to him by caring for other believers as you still do. He sees this. He's not unjust. He knows that we're doing this. And there is a reaction on his part. Provision is one of the things that we read earlier. But he sees that. He sees service as this is what my family does for one another. So how should we view service? If we see Jesus' definition here, we see how God the Father does. So in Colossians 3:23 and 24, it says this: work willingly at whatever you do, as though you were working for the Lord rather than people. Work willingly as you're working really for the Lord and not for other people. That is who we're serving. Remember that the Lord will give you an inheritance as your reward, and that the master you are serving is Christ. So whatever we do, it may help this person, it may help that organization, it may help this, it will benefit the church. But the person we're really serving is Jesus. This is how this works in the supernatural. All right? So Jesus did this amazing thing, and it's replicated all over, and sometimes especially at conferences or any of these, feel-good man bun kind of adventures, Steve. One of those kind of bromance kind of things, some of the words that I am really not encouraged to use at my house. Bromance is one. Brotherhood I can do, but bromance is kind of like, I don't think the guys really like that one. It's kind of gets messy, and it's like, all right, so we'll go with brotherhood. But Jesus is doing something here in John 13, and it's listed in all the Gospels. But he goes through this physical action to put a period on the end of this concept of serving. Hey, this is me. This is how I want you to replicate and be my body after I'm gone. So he does this really, it's hard for us to find an action today that is equal to this. But what he does is, he told him, you're not going to understand what I'm doing right now. It's going to be uncomfortable and awkward and plain old weird. I'm sure he said the word weird. But someday you're going to understand what I'm doing. And he sits down and he puts them in a row. I'm sure he did, according to height. I don't know. But he goes through it and he washes their feet. And it sounds like this amazing ceremony. But in our world, it would be like Jesus coming to your house and cleaning your bathroom. That's as close as I can get. Because the lowest servant in the household is the one who washed the feet of the guest. It's an act of hospitality to have your feet washed because you were walking with sandals, your feet are dusty, and you don't want to bring that into someone's home. That would be disrespectful. It would be like walking through the garden and having all this compost and mud on your shoes and walking through someone's house. You wouldn't do that. So they can't take their feet off, so they would have their feet washed, but it would be done by the lowest person of lowest standing in the house. So the lowest servant. And so by Jesus doing this and putting the towel around him and wiping and drying their feet, and I'm sure he went very slow. And I'm not even sure if he spoke while he did it, very emphatically pushing this into their memory. You're going to remember this for the rest of your lives. And he says in verse 15 here in John 13, he says, I've given you an example to follow. Do as I have done for you. Do as I have done. I'm doing this because I want you to understand when I say serve, boys and girls, I mean serve. And in my world, I would see that as cleaning the bathrooms. I mean, about where people would be shocked. What do you mean Jesus is in your bathroom scrubbing your toilet? I mean, he did something so shocking, they just couldn't believe he would do that because it was so below a teacher, a leader's position back in that society. Anybody have a different definition in mind or a different example than my amazing one of cleaning the bathrooms?
No, I think that one's pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking of a worse job at a house.
Well, even here, you talk to Mr. Tom. It's very interesting. And God bless that man, love him. It's like, okay, cleaning those bathrooms. So here is a little bit more conversation. All right, guys, hope everyone here is ready. We're going to have this conversation. Can you remember a time, we're talking about serving the church, serving the body, serving the community, serving your country, serving the nation, serving the world, however you want to define it, service. Can you remember a time when you served and you did it really, really afraid? You did it afraid. A time when you did something and you knew you were supposed to do it, but you're scared spitless, and you did it
I can
anyway.
remember one.
All right.
It was the first time I ever served. It would have been in the mid 80s there. It was after a great friend of mine led me to the Lord. So we were going to a church, little church, and been going there maybe a month. And for whatever reason, whoever was supposed to be doing the sound or something like that wasn't there, and nobody was there doing it. And it was, this is bad. This is bad. Somebody's got to do something.
Yes.
Somebody's got to
Yes.
do something.
Yes.
And it was like, I guess you're the one that's going to do something here.
You're
So,
somebody, Steve. You're somebody.
and it's something that I kind of have been doing in the secular world. They're doing concerts and things like that. So it was a natural fit, but it was still, I didn't want to be stepping on toes because nobody asked me to do it, suggested anything like that. I just kind of meandered over there and started adjusting things. And then I was all afraid that, oh man, I'm going to really mess this up, and they're going to kick me out of this church, my first church, and they're going to throw me out. Oh, it's terrible. But it worked out, and let's see, that was probably 1984, 85. This is the year 2020, and I'm still at the soundboard.
Yes, you are.
You're doing a great job.
Yeah, that seems to be something you and Patty are really good at, is sticking with what you do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Pastor Robin, Sam, any thoughts on that one?
I think the first time you do anything, I mean,
True.
being the sound guy for the first time impromptu, right? Mine wasn't impromptu, but it was kind of planned. The first time I drummed was a scary thing.
Yeah,
I was 14 years old. And now that was probably, when would have that been? That would have been 94. 93, 94. And to Steve's point, it's 2020 and I'm still drumming.
Drumming. Yes, you are.
So, yeah. First time doing that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Wasn't a huge church, but you're still out there in front of everybody, you know, and you don't want to screw up. And
Yes.
We're all looking at you.
Yes, I know.
now I'm screwing up every week.
That's right. How good are you? What else are you doing? Yeah. How about you, Pastor Robin?
I can remember you weigh really heavily into this because it was the very first time that you invited me to teach a workshop at Women's Retreat. And it was the very first time I had done anything like that in front of a group. And I was scared to death. And yet there was still something in my heart that was so excited to try. And I can't speak for the quality of that particular workshop, but I had such a great time doing it. It was one of those things where I felt the pleasure of the Lord. And
Yes.
here we are all these years later. And
Yes.
he's been really gracious with opportunities to do similar things since. So that's been good.
Oh, that's really good. Bruce, you want to jump in on any of this conversation? You let me know.
I guess I would pretty much piggyback on Sam and Otto's with, coming here 7 years ago and getting involved with Witness.
Yep.
Being on
Yeah.
stage in front of all these people, and
yeah,
you
good
do
one.
it afraid,
Yep.
but you still do it anyways because you hope you change that one person's life and makes it all worth that.
Yep. Yep. I love that phrase, do it afraid. We use that a lot in raising our kids.
Yeah. Yep.
I remember the first time I was asked to do that proverbial pastor's wife thing. For those who don't know, I'm married to the senior pastor here at Maranatha, and to preach the Mother's Day sermon because,
You're
you
a
need
mother.
to. Yeah, I'm a mother,
You're a
and
mother.
this was so many years ago. We were in our original building, which was in the spot where Cub Foods is right now here in Forest Lake. And I remember being excited. I felt that this was something I should do, partially because I don't want to, and partially because I'm scared, but that I needed to be comfortable up there. And of course, I know guys probably don't do this too much, but you go, as a female, you go through your shoes because I want to make sure my feet handle being able to walk up there because some heel, Otto, when's the last time you checked your heels to make sure they were short, that kind of stuff. But the
Don't
thing,
answer that.
Yeah, that's
Don't
right.
answer
That's
that.
not,
We
that
don't-
is
we don't need to
rhetorical.
know.
Yep, Sam, we don't want to know that. But going through all this, and I remember thinking my books help me be comfortable. I love to read, and I have books all over the place. And so I made sure that instead of writing quotes out in my notes, I just brought the books up there and put them on the pulpit because the Bible obviously is there, but these other books remind me that it's just me. It's just me. And this is where everyone in the entire church learned how fast Pastor Orlean can talk. Because I was not Pastor Orlean back then, but Pastor Mike's wife, Orlean. And I can talk really fast, especially when I get nervous and I want to get done. And so I remember being nervous and afraid, but excited because I want to see what happens. The expectation of those verses we read about when God sees us serving and taking care of his family for him, there is this open door in the supernatural. And it allows things. This is my version of how things work in the spiritual realm. It opens something and it creates this fluidity between our natural world and the eternal world. And so when Jesus talks about us having an eternity mindset, I think this all plays into that. This idea of giving and serving, it just opens things. And I can't tell you what it really opens or what it looks like. It's the only way I can explain it with my feeble earthly words. So there was like the first time we served. Now we know because all of us here have served for a while. You can see our faces and tell there's gray hair here and mentioning how many years ago when these first things happened. Can you think of somewhere where you served? This question isn't in our notes, but somewhere where someone asked you to do something and you immediately knew, I'm kind of good at this. I'm surprised I can do this. I really liked that. I was nervous, but holy cow, I wasn't that nervous. Does anyone have a story? I know I'm breaking this one on you kind of early, but or without any notes. But this concept of, wow.
Where'd that come from?
Yeah, how did I do that?
I can remember that, Pastor Orlean, when we have a ministry here at Maranatha called One Saturday Morning. Pardon me. And I can remember being at the planning meeting for that shortly after I began attending at Maranatha. And at that planning meeting, you had sorted it out with different activities that needed to happen in order to make that ministry work. And one of them was being the interviewer. And I had never done anything like that in my life. There was nothing externally saying, oh, yeah, that's Robin's job.
Yes.
But I tell you what, it was fascinating. Something welled up within me like, that's my job. And I began having this ongoing discussion really quickly in my heart with the Holy Spirit of, I really think that's my job. I wonder if anybody's going to take it. If they take it, and it won't be my job. And, oh, it'll be interesting to see. And so we totally got all the way around the table with everybody taking all of these other positions. And the only one that was left was the one with the microphone. And they started looking at me. And I was like, I think that's my job. It was really funny.
Good. And I was so excited. It's like, yes.
Yeah,
Anyone
it
else?
was
Something that you just discovered, I'm kind of good at this. Didn't know that was a skill I had. I have examples. Can I share examples for other people, or is that not allowed? I mean, other people in this room.
Okay, other
There we
people.
go.
I was going to say you might need written
I
authorization
remember
for
the
anyone outside
authorization.
of the room.
Well, just for this, chew on this. When we decided to switch our Wednesday night format to create a different atmosphere and some more opportunity for people to have small group experience. So the Wednesday night crew, when we normally meet, we have the opening prayer time, which is our worship time where we pray for one another. We log the prayers. We keep track of them over the year. And then after that, we go into a discussion like I do with the opening scriptures. And then instead of us talking as a team, we break into small groups and you talk in your small groups, and then we come back together and end the evening. But in order to support that type of format, we needed to do something, because you can't record small groups and you don't want to. You want to have that. And I got to tell you, sometimes people get super chatty. You know, these people won't stop talking and they have to go pick up their children. You know, as much as we love being together, those working with the children's class, which was done 15 minutes ago, you got to go get them. And so it's wonderful to watch that dynamic. But we were trying to figure out a way to get the information of Wednesday night, the experience of the Wednesday night crew out there, since we weren't videoing it anymore and posting it. So the idea came to do this podcast. And as I'm praying about it and thinking, you know, who has the serving history, who has the loving Jesus history of just being around so they can share the wealth of walking in their faith for a while, that they have loved Jesus for a while. And Steve, it was amazing because I see you all the time back at the soundboard. And it's like, you know, I know some of your story or in Patty's story. And it's like, you know, he's here anyway on Wednesday night. I'm not going to ask him. He doesn't want to do that. He doesn't. And it's like, no, you got to ask him. And it's like, he's going to be really good at this. And it's like, and asked you, and I'm not sure. What was your first thoughts when I asked you to do this?
I got to tell you, when you asked me, I thought it was more of a technical running sound.
I'm so clear.
Then I show up the first week and, okay, here's one of the group. How about, what? And it's been great, fantastic. It really opened up something in me that I really didn't know I was capable of performing. Yep. And I've loved it ever since.
And a confirmation to that is we had our radio station tech. Okay, Bruce, help me out here. I forgot his name. That's
Gary.
Gary. Sorry, Gary Lundstrom. He was here helping, making sure that we didn't break anything in the radio station. And then for him to know Steve better so he could understand, Steve understands all these buttons and all of that. And Bruce is around too, making sure, you know, we just want to make sure everything goes well in here. And Gary was shocked. He had a shocked face. He's like, well, I probably shouldn't have known you guys could do this. Because it was like we were just having a conversation over a cup of coffee, just chatting about what happened 2 nights ago, because we normally record on a Friday morning. And just kind of Did you see in that small group, that new person, you could tell that they'd never read the Bible and they're here. We were so excited. They were falling in love with Jesus' word right in front of us. It was amazing. And so all of those kinds of wonderful conversation. And Gary was just delighted to see that, you know what, Otto, have you ever edited one of our episodes?
Never. Not 1 second, not one word. We just kind of, well, this is what we've thought here. If we do make a little mistake, we just let it go because we're just real people.
And it just adds to it. It's a normal conversation. And
Yes.
I still giggle. It hasn't been a whole year yet, but I still just giggle at this idea that, God, you are so good. It's like, who would have thunk? Who would have thought this? You know, Pastor Robin, you and I have interwoven in each other's ministry paths quite a bit and watching each other do. One of my favorite memories of being with you, Pastor Robin, was at a women's retreat. And women's retreat around here is just different. So for those of you who've never been to the men's conference hosted for men here at Maranatha or the women's retreat hosted for the women, it's hard to imagine because we address intellectual needs, spiritual needs, physical needs, and social needs. All four of those things get addressed because that's how you're a mature Christian, called quadrant growth. That's what we call it here on this campus. And we address all of those at these retreats. And so we try to offer experiences with all four. Well, of course, the spiritual growth one are the plenary sessions when we get together, and Robin and I were in the ministry room, and all of the team that works all night and doesn't sleep and gets everything done so everybody can enjoy themselves is in that room. And we get done with an evening session, and I go back in the room. I lay on the floor and I just have a tantrum kicking my feet because it was such a bad service. I stunk. It was horrible. It's like I could not communicate my point. And like and it's like, God, why are you asking me to do these things when I get up there and I know in my heart what he wants them to experience, and I can't get him there, feeling like such a failure. But Robin got to watch me process in the privacy with the door shut and just kind of like, oh, it stunk so bad. How could I do something so bad? And in this process, realizing, well, tomorrow we'll do better. And this is part of our philosophy around here is we are going to serve to the best of our capability, and we're going to go and address in the morning, letting him know, you know, last night was good to be together, and let's try again this morning. And so this idea of when he asks us to serve, when we try new things, it's not always going to be easy and smooth like it was for the Chew on This podcast, but that one there was this learning curve because for those of you who know me, I have a nickname, the Queen of Too Much Information. And I don't think my husband gave it to me, but maybe because he gets to listen to all the new things I discover when I study. And I just want everyone to know every detail of our notes. I've been getting better. You're not getting 100 pages, Steve. When's the last time you've seen a 100-page packet? We have had one, Sam. It was a big one. And I just thought, hey, they want access to all this info, but taking all of that and distilling it down into bite-sized pieces has been a big learning curve for me because not everybody wants all the info. They want to take a bite and ruminate and enjoy and learn how to apply it. And so in this serving aspect, there is a learning curve depending on where you're serving and how it goes.
Actually, Todd Gaskell had a comment here that kind of speaks right to that. Maybe serving gets easier because we get used to letting people see our mistakes.
Way to go.
You know, as a learning experience.
Yes, way to go,
right?
Todd. That's true.
Yep.
Yes. Because guess what? We're all going to have mistakes.
We're all human.
Whoa. Well, you know
we
what?
are all human.
Sam, I haven't heard you say anything about this small thing that you do around here that, you know, involves blood and kitchen
Blood
and
and guts and
Sasquatch and ammunition and weaponry and, you know, just this, you know.
Yeah, just this little event thing that happens once a year.
Yeah.
I would say the first year doing that was...
So what's it called?
It's called the Wild Game Dinner.
And how long have you been leading this amazing team of guys? Do you need help?
I think it's going to be... I think it's going to be 7 years, maybe.
Wow, yeah.
Maybe 8, 7.
I think the Cup of Faith, our coffee ministry, is open at that event, and the women that come and work at it love it because we get to spy on, because it's mainly men that come to this event, and it's amazing. I mean, it's like somebody took a glove and it was made for your hand and has you step into it. So what was it really like the first year you ran it? Can you speak to some of these questions about what's that like? Because this is big event serving. I mean, this is owning, and how many guys or how many individuals, mainly men, show up for?
Yeah, so we're averaging about 500.
Okay.
I'd say the first year was probably in the 300 range.
Yep.
And then each year we just kind of, well, the first thing was you can't do it alone,
Correct.
right? Something like that, you need a solid team.
And it's an interesting skill set of serving with others and helping them be successful at what they do.
Yeah, absolutely. And everyone's got their own little niche, right? You've got you got someone that's good at teaching, you've got someone that's good at cooking, you've got someone that's good at organizing, you've got someone that's good at taxidermy in this case, right? Or have an interest
Who knew
in that
would
area.
be a ministry skill?
So you've got all these different niche skill sets, and it was important to find someone that could serve in each of those areas in their own way.
Yes.
Because there's no way one person could put something like that together. So as that team's kind of gelled over the years, and it's become more of a well-oiled machine, and the fact that it's run well, there's plenty of things to do for all interests in the outdoors.
Yes.
It's maintained about 500 guys each year. Is a great opportunity to invite unbelievers.
Correct. Yes.
And even believers from other churches.
Yes. Just to celebrate being an outdoors person, an outdoorsman.
Absolutely.
From this crew of people, I didn't realize that collecting sheds, I don't even know what you call that, but I know that in and of itself is a hobby. I mean, Mike and I, when we hike, we have collected some and we just give them to our grandkids.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that, and none of them have been as big as some of the things that you guys have found, but I didn't realize. So is there a name for that? Shed collecting?
Shed hunting.
Shed hunting?
Yep.
Yeah.
Antler collecting.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, antler collecting. I'm just amazed. Like, I could do. I
there you
don't
go.
enjoy the other process. I do enjoy eating at that event, but I don't enjoy that's one of the reasons why you work in the Cup of Faith at that event. They send you
But
snacks.
it's not called the Cup of Faith. What is it called?
Oh, it's called the Duck Butt Cafe.
There you go.
And hey, we have to, blend in with whatever event. So,
you got to fit in.
And believe it or not, individuals donated decor to dress up our coffee shop to look like the Duck Butt Cafe.
There you go.
And so we make all kinds of drinks appropriate for the night.
Yeah,
And then they send
it's
us
different
food.
every year.
Yeah. Well, of course it has to be.
Yeah.
Especially last year, there's the big theme of the Sasquatch. So you see all the creativity. Did you realize how creative you were?
No.
Yeah, it was amazing, the stuff that comes up when you're working together on a team,
Yep.
healthy, all this creativity. Pastor Robin knows this because we talk about this a lot in the things that we work on. When the creativity dries up, there's a problem. There's too much help. There's a reason. There's something wrong. When your creativity disappears, it's a litmus you need to make an adjustment because it's not healthy.
Yep. Absolutely. Yep.
Pastor O, I think I had an idea of a T-shirt for Saint.
Oh boy.
This is my circus, and these are my Sasquatches.
Oh, there you go. Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah, and you can have a whole bunch of them walking on there. This is nice. Yeah, it is.
I have one living in the yard now, so
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
fun.
Yes.
Yeah,
You had to expect that was going to show up. Yeah.
I had it coming, didn't I?
It's like nobody. It was so much fun. It
Yeah.
was so much fun. Yes. So that was an example of you helping people to experience serving. Otto, Robin, Bruce, any other thoughts you have on you helping someone serve, and you can watch and you call discipleship or mentoring? Any stories on that as we're getting close to wrapping up tonight?
Do I have a story? A dear friend, Carla. Hello, Carla. Every year, our church puts on our annual variety show, and it is a wonderful event to have the whole family, from the tiniest to the oldest, come, and we just have so much fun. There are singers, and part of my favorite is just the acts that come together and they do silly things and all this kind of stuff. It's just awesome. We have great food, and it's just a wonderful celebration as a family. And we needed another team member. And so I asked my friend Carla if she would join the team. And just love working with her. And later on, she shared with me that it really touched her heart that she was asked to be on the team. And that just yeah, that did something amazing for her. She didn't consider that she was able to do something like that and was really honored to have been asked. And it really touched my heart that, wow, we do amazing things when we provide opportunity for people to come alongside us and do God stuff together. So,
Yes, that's a great definition of serving, doing God stuff together. Yeah, that could be a fun T-shirt in and of itself. Yes. Any other thoughts on that? On to the next. All right. Scripture verse that, how does this happen? Build together, to build together the foundation, like that, but being built together to become in which God lives by his Spirit. As Paul writes that to the church at Ephesus, it's like, how in the world do we accomplish that? And I honestly think this is a huge part of it. If you want to experience that, one of the ways to do that is to give and to serve and to watch what happens. And I think that these are some of the things that accomplishes. An interdependent family develops. This idea of taking puzzle pieces for those, and I know right now there's a lot of families that have been doing, and individuals, regardless of who is in your house, if it's just you or other people or whatever, that they have been doing puzzles together. So it's been, we've been getting pictures, right, Sonia? Pictures of puzzles that are being completed. We talk about them at Monday Night Bible Study. But putting these pieces together, and it creates a picture that you wouldn't even know that is there when you look at the individual puzzle. So I think surprise at being good at something is a natural part of this. So like, I didn't know I could do that. I had no idea I was good at that. I didn't know I would enjoy that. Who knew? So this idea of decor, who knew? I didn't have any idea I'd be good at. I mean, just wonderful to watch. Interdependent family, these pieces going together. So I think that's one of the things that happens with serving and giving. Another thing that it accomplishes, I believe that it shows, it is such a witness of Jesus and his power, that this group of people that do not belong together, they are not like they were all born. I mean, there are families, extended family nuances throughout almost all church congregations, but there is this proclamation of Jesus and his power that this hobnobby group of people are getting together and look, I mean, just even looking at the wild game dinner, look what can happen when everyone comes in and does their piece. It's just amazing. It's something that's motivating, it's sustaining, and when individuals see it, it's like, I want to be a part of that. I want to know, they usually say something like this, that looks like fun. And they're right, it is fun. Hard work, but it is an unbelievable amount of fun. It also becomes an invitation for others to join. It's like, I want to taste that, I want to see. We use the word tonight, service, as a lifestyle, but they see something just attractive because it creates community and they want to experience that community. So I want to be part of that community. How do I do that? So that is another accomplishment of serving and giving. Another one is that it beckons engagement. It says you can do something to be a part of something. It's not just here for you to enjoy and for you to visit. You can actually be a part of it. Another really good one is it kills our inner Pharisee. There is nothing like working on a team. Put your ego in check. Yeah. Because you begin to find out, guess what? You don't know everything and you're not the end of everything. And you do have to share your toys. I don't care how old you are. You have to share your toys and you have to talk nice and you can't take a nap whenever you want to. You have to make sure your works are done. So with my, sort of a short list, any other thoughts? Anybody else here on this idea of what serving and giving accomplishes in the family as we're looking at that verse in Ephesians?
one of the things I think of, Pastor Orlean, is just this idea of it helps combat this sense of there is only so much. There's only so much favor, or there's only so much money, or there's only so much. And if I don't keep a hold of what's mine, then my needs won't get met. And we stand against that in amazing love, probably unknowingly, as we are generous in our giving, as we are generous in our serving. We don't have to be protective of our needs being met. Yeah, we have to have good boundaries, of course, and all that. That's not even what I'm talking about. But it's like I want to use the phrase like a poverty mindset. Yep. Like there's never going to be enough, so I have to grasp at mine. Oh, no. In Jesus, there's not only enough for you, but enough to share. And so we don't have to worry so much about getting our needs met. We can just serve and we can give and watch what God will do.
Yes. I love that idea. You don't have to keep it all. You don't have to hoard.
Yeah.
How applicable in this time. You don't have to hoard.
And I think in serving, you get to meet new people. You make new friends.
True.
You build a community that you wouldn't have had if you weren't putting your foot forward and investing in other people's lives who reciprocate.
Yes. You would not have ended up with a Sasquatch in the woods.
Absolutely.
You know, that just, he wouldn't have shown up at your house. Now he
No.
knows he's safe because you love him and
Yeah.
you take care of him. And
We
you
ate
feed
his
him.
brother, but he is
You
safe.
ate his brother. Yeah,
Yeah.
we did have Sasquatch too. Just saying. It was good. All right. So as we close tonight, anyone else before I move into the closing?
I just had one quick one,
Okay.
Pastor Arlene, is the personal development of working with a team that you can actually
true.
swallow your humble pie that iron sharpens iron. It's just
Good point.
kind of amazing.
Good point.
You know, especially with the leadership here at the church that, how do I politically say it? They kind of make you own your own stuff and call you out on it in a loving way and a safe way. So I think you have to have
Yeah.
both, you know, without,
Oh, yes, most definitely.
without
Yeah.
being safe, it's almost like it's abuse. But with when you can feel their love and that they really want what's best for you to
Yes.
shape you better, it's just amazing when you get into that safety net.
Yes. One way I try to define it, depending on what group I'm in, is the skills you learn while serving, you should be able to take to work and get a promotion from. Because they're applicable everywhere. I mean, learning how to get a part of a community and make it a positive, growing experience. There isn't any place or business on the planet where that doesn't produce more income. It is. I mean, the Lord is serious when He talks about this. It opens things here in the natural, but they're open in the supernatural and come down in the natural for us. And I think that is one of the benefits, that it develops in us what grows, and we can take that to different places and find that it has even greater benefits as we share it wherever else we go.
Yep.
Good point, Bruce.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So yeah, it's a skills learned here can be
Yes.
applied wherever you
Well,
go. Absolutely.
that's how it's supposed to
Yep.
work. That's how we're working on making sure. And there is this unbelievable benefit of having conflict within these serving communities here, because in there we learn how to handle it according to Scripture. Not that we do it perfectly, but
Yeah.
we try to do it. We try to address it. And in that process, it's like, really, it can look like this, depending on what your background and your family of origin. How you handle conflict can be really, really diverse, to the point of absolutely pretend it doesn't exist, to I'm going to pull your hair out.
Yeah.
So we try to get somewhere in the healthy middle of those two
between, yeah.
extremes, but that it can be. I mean, can you imagine being a grown-up for the very first time and realize you can disagree with someone and it's okay, and they're not going to hate you because you disagree? I mean, it's amazing to watch adult reactions to conflict because they've never had what you're talking about, Bruce, that loving and safe environment to process through.
Yep.
Yep. Any other words, Otto?
Yeah, I was just going to say that serving, giving, it's almost like, to me, obviously you tithe, but that's, you write out a check, or I do it online. That's just giving coin away. When you are serving, you're actually giving of yourself. It couldn't be any more personal than to go in there and work in the kitchen, and you have a talent, you have something that you can do. So now you're giving your time, which to me is really valuable, is my time. Well, it's 66 here, clock is, but I think that really is more heartfelt to the Lord, that you are doing something instead of just writing a check, but you're giving your time, you're giving your talents, you are giving yourself.
Yes. Yes.
And what I hear out of that, Steve, is witness.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Witness. You know, we don't get time back. It's an investment wherever we give it. And so you're right, it is precious. And when we come alongside and we serve and we do God's stuff together, we are making an investment, not just in the kingdom, but in each other.
Yes. Yes. We're helping each other build our Lego cities, sharing our blocks, creating something beautiful together.
Amen.
All right, in closing tonight, I would like to just reference in Luke 7 where Jesus has this experience with a woman who doesn't have a reputation that everyone at this meeting he was at was really proud of. And as a result of his relationship with her, she has this amazing reaction where she anoints his feet with oil and her tears and dries them off with her hair. And not everybody's comfortable with this because, one, who she is, and two, what she did and how much money that oil cost, which was really, really expensive. And he is explaining to them that, I tell you that her sins, though there are many, they've been forgiven. And that's why she has shown this much love. A person who is forgiven little shows little love, but a person who's been forgiven much shows a lot. And it isn't that we rate that upon our personal goodness. He's saying that she understands she's sinful. So many of us do not understand. He has forgiven a lot. And so in this process of serving and giving, it is a response. It is a response to that love, and she understood. But sometimes we walk and go through our life and think we're doing God a favor. And it's like, you can answer that however you want. I will be careful how I answer it here on air, but I have a standard response, which I can share with you in private. Just come ask me. But where we think we're doing God a favor, and we ain't doing him no favor. Mm-hmm. It's like we are responding out of love and out of delight. I cannot believe he loves me so much. I cannot believe life on this planet can be like this. I don't have to have these priorities. I get these priorities. And the entrance door into this type of living is having a lifestyle of serving and giving. So here's my questions or my final thoughts. Serving is not a duty that we perform to earn a chunk of heaven. Mm-hmm. We're not doing a duty to earn a chunk of heaven. Nope. And serving is not an assignment. Get this, do that. Let me tattoo this on your back. This is what you do. No, serving is a response. Luke 7 tells us that. Serving is a response. It is a direct response to the love Christ has shown us. Mm-hmm. Otto?
We'd like to thank you for joining us for this week's discussion on Considering 2 Corinthians, a lifestyle of serving and giving. Please come back next Wednesday evening at 6:30 for another live stream of Chew on This. This is Steve Lundy reminding you to always be kind.